Hello everyone, Gibello here. I'm gonna start this right off the bat. Tower Heroes lore is particularly unexplained, and this video isn't really about the lore of that game, or at least not just Tower Heroes. Every game made by Pixelbit Studio, or at least every single one of them that actually matters, Survive the Wave sucks, including things like Worst Baby or the Halo games, are all connected by one complicated story, which for the purpose of this video I'm going to call Chaos End. Chaos End includes the story of the Huawei game, the backstories of the characters present and or mentioned in the Huawei game, and finally the upcoming quote-unquote chapter 2 for it, which was confirmed by Halo during his interview with Walmart out of all things. But anyway, I put almost in the title of this video because a lot of things are likely incorrect. Almost all of the things I say are not confirmed unless I specifically say so. Please always keep that in mind. Now, without any further yapping, I think it's better to begin by quickly explaining what actually happens in Huawei, before breaking it down more in detail. I should not even be explaining this because if you haven't finished Huawei, then why the f are you watching this video, bro? If you complete it right now, as of writing, you can still get some cool avatar item. There's about 100 of them in stock still remaining, so you should go ahead and do it if you haven't. Anyway, for those that have played the actual game, here's a brief summary. So, this bunny character, Tryu, doesn't matter, ends up in the Huawei. Then she collects a bunch of shapes and ends up in the Inbetween, a place that looks suspiciously similar to Chaos Kingdom in Tower Heroes. There, she can talk with a few NPCs like knights, pawns, and a villager, and some mysterious suited figure that apparently just speaks gibberish. She manages to collect 3 keys by solving different puzzles, then uses them to open a gate where she falls down and where she ends up fighting a Jester. She manages to trick the Jester into pulling a guillotine on himself and he disappears. She ends up collecting some strange dye, not literally. Then she's sucked up into a portal and you get kicked out of the game. There's also a secret ending, quote unquote, where after doing some unindicated puzzle bullshit, collect a USB and then use that as an alternative route at the end of the Jester fight. I'll come back to that later. Before I begin analyzing, Chaos End is a story centered around one main thing, and that should be noted: Starlight. The story starts with it, and it's a main point for pretty much all of the characters, so it is very important. Starlight is a material extracted through crystals found in a specific mountain by a somewhat obscure Pixelbit antagonist, Dr. Mega. Basically, he's not really from any Pixelbit game and is more so from the Ready Player One ROBLOX event, so I'm not going too deep on him, but he is a super intelligent being that wears a chicken suit, whose plan is to take over Robloxia. Hilo confirmed that he canonically dies after a certain event in a specific Pixelbit game, but I'll get to that later. Anyway, he and his team of scientists have found and extracted this dust-like powder material from the crystals and decided to name it Stardust. Stardust can give those who are in possession of it the power of Starlight, which is incredibly strong and is even able to create portals between universes. These universes being the other Pixelbit games, obviously. However, the energy it gives is so strong it can drive almost anyone crazy. And, well, spoiler, that actually happens there. Okay, now with that out of the way, I'm going to first explain the locations a bit better than the characters themselves that appear in Huawei. There are 3 main locations, this being the Huawei, the Inbetween, and a third location which I will mention in a later segment. It's part of the secret ending. The Huawei is this weird tunnel with various different holes and a bunch of shapes laying around. There's not much you can do other than collecting the shapes and then opening the door that takes you to the Inbetween. but there actually used to be a complicated puzzle with you needing to count holes in each line of the tunnel, and according to the numbers you get, you collect the shapes in a specific order based on what they are. It was removed when Hilo nerfed the entire puzzle so more people could get the UGC. The puzzle that was removed was actually quite important, and it made the connection between the hallway and the literal clock. Each line of the tunnel made out an hour on the clock, and there's 12 of them, obviously. This connects hallway again as a place that ignores time itself and that will remain there for eternity, which was confirmed on multiple instances, such as the game description, the description for the Crown of Chaos, and etc. In one of the many teaser images that Hilo sent, this place was described as a purgatory in the middle of the void. A purgatory, by definition, is a place between heaven and hell that will send souls of the people in either depending on directions. I obviously don't think it's a one-to-one replica of that, but there's still some connections. Instead of a place between heaven and hell, it's more like between time and space, as said before. Anyway, there's no confirmation for how Tryu ended up there, nor is it explained at all, and she doesn't even remember that. However, what is explained is where she's from, but there's more of that on that later. The shapes you can pick up are part of the friendship neckline, which is an accessory that Hilo made the character wear a few times he drew Tryu, whatever, etc. The shapes of the neckline being scattered around reflect Tryu's friendship. It is lost like the shapes, as she's in this place she doesn't know and has no idea how to get out, or if she ever will. It's kinda cliche as a concept, but I honestly like it. Anyways, moving on to the second location, the Inbetween. From the dialogue of the NPCs there, it is revealed that the place was originally part of one of Sylvia's kingdoms. But then the court Jester went insane and created this reality, trapping some of the kingdom's inhabitants in it, along with himself, obviously. Then he was somehow further reclused in a different section of the Inbetween, locked up behind a gate, protected by 3 aforementioned keys that Tryu collects. One notable thing is the somewhat heavy presence of guillotines. It makes you imagine the type of rulership Sylvia established in the kingdom, and also maybe why they're used as attacks by Jester. There's also a few extra things to be said about this place, but again, I'll get to that later. Skipping the third location for now, I'm going to move on to the characters. I will be going only considering the important ones, which excludes the pawns and the knights, but includes this heated guy. There are 4 main characters, these being Tryu, Lunatic, Jester, and Sylvia. There's also 2, or well technically 3 other characters, which I will again mention in a later segment. Starting off with Tryu, we don't know much about her, but there's 2 important things to note. She's actually from Superblox Hills. Yes, you hear me right. She reveals in a dialogue with the villager that she comes from a town on an island with lot of roads, and that she used to often play at the arcade with her friends until they all left her. It is not specifically mentioned that she's from that game, but like, come on, dude, it's fucking obvious. They multiple times teased Superblox Hills having an arcade. She looks like a Superblox Hills NPC. 2 + 2 = 4. The second point is that she's a separate character from the player. That's very important to note. Think of it like the connection between Nico and, again, the player, the god of the world, in one shot if you play the game. You don't play as Tryu, you play as yourself and are able to control her. Moving on to Lunatic. There's no confirmation for this guy's name in reality. However, with a few console shenanigans, you can get the ID of the decals used in his dialogue, and they are named under Lunatic Talk 1, Lunatic Talk 2, etc. As the ones of characters like Tryu are named Tryu Talk 1, Tryu Talk 2, I'm just going to roll with the name Lunatic for him. It sounds pretty cool too. Anyway, he speaks in, as I called it before, gibberish, but it's actually saying sentences, and you just have to decrypt them. Me and a few friends got to do it some time ago, and managed to translate all but one of his dialogues, which I'm now going to read. I know what you want, what you need. They don't know they want it. They don't know it's real. Freedom. You are different. You are not you. If you know the answers. Have you met him yet? He is here. His dialogues basically mention of Jester and point out that Tryu is not herself. Again, as mentioned before, Tryu and the player are different characters. They also mention freedom, which I again assume is talking about Starlight. About the Lunatic himself, I don't think he's in possession of saved material, although it's not extremely unlikely. There's also the possibility that he's gone insane simply because he knows he's in a place where he can't escape and is forever trapped in it. As one of the pawns states, it's what this place does to someone. The particle Lunatic's emits are used as the start of a puzzle for aforementioned secret ending, and I do think they might have been inspired by the corruption in One-Shot's Solstice route. Yeah, in case you couldn't tell, Halo was definitely inspired by Undertale and Deltarune and One-Shot for the lore of Chaos End. I honestly think it's cool, so I don't mind it. Anyways, if any of you in the comments might choose to translate this one dialogue in specific, I will be extremely glad. We know for a fact the first word is if, the second is obviously you, the third is currently unknown, the fourth one is obviously it, and we theorize that the last one is free. That's all the important stuff regarding Lunatic. We can now move on to Jester. Let's get this out of the way instantly. Yes, he is the same Jester from Chaos Kingdom in Tower Heroes. This is practically confirmed by Halo, as he referred to this one Jester as a decayed version, implying it's the same character. We pretty much know for a fact that he is in possession of Starlight, as we see him create portals with it to make guillotines fall trying to kill Tryu. If you think about it, there's a chance these guillotines are teleported from other universes right as they're about to kill the characters. It's kinda funny to think about. Anyways, it is pretty much confirmed that in a way or another he got in possession of Starlight, which drove him insane and made him create the Inbetween. When Tryu enters his place, Jester mentions a certain she that he thinks sent Tryu there. I think it's obvious who he's talking about given who the next character I mention is, so let's just move to Sylvia. She's not physically present in hallway, but she's obviously the one Jester is referring to. She's depicted in a painting that you can find floating during the Jester fight, and also in another place. I know I said that before, but I'll just get to that later. Anyway, Jester's dialogue clearly implies that he thinks Sylvia sent Tryu to go against him, so he could take Starlight away from him. We know for a fact Jester managed to quote-unquote find it first, which is honestly interesting. Personally, I don't necessarily think Sylvia is in possession of Starlight, but she's 100% aware of his existence, and she's probably in search for it. It's possible that she is the one that locked up Jester, but that won't explain how she managed to escape the Inbetween. We don't even know if she is there or not, or if she was trapped there to begin with. Do you see what I mean when I say you're just supposed to figure things out for whatever reason? It's honestly stupid. There's also the chance that Jester just locked himself up, as he says he doesn't want to leave this place. Anyway, we can finally move on to the second ending, so I can clear up some other things. This ending includes one location, the room, along with two characters, Ghost and Instance. I mentioned it earlier, but after obtaining the ESP and getting to the end of the fight against Jester, you want to take the opposite route and end up in the room, which is an empty room with the aforementioned Sylvia painting, along with one final door for you to open. We don't know much at all about the room itself. It's confirmed to be still part of the Inbetween like always though. Anyway, you can gain the code to open the door with some puzzle shenanigans. It also comes with a message from a character going under the name of Ghost. This character is very important, so much so that I'm going to read all of his first dialogue word for word. If you're reading this, I applaud you. Hopefully this has fallen into the right hands. I've managed to form a communication link across the platform that I think you'll find interesting. Creating messengers, so to speak. It's possible you've had a run-in with the instance, and for that I greatly apologize. It was not intended for it to behave this way. I try my best to stop them from creating it, but I have limitations. I question what the end goal of the entity is in this situation. From what I've found, it seems to come and go as it pleases. Unfortunately, there's only so much so I can write here. I will try to contact you again in the future. There should be a special area somewhere in the in-between where you receive the information to reach me. Take Tryu there. You'll need her to use this drive to access it. I'll be talking to you later. Ghost. Going back to the room, once the player does some weird puzzle shenanigans and opens the door, Ghost will talk to them again. From both of these dialogues, we can gather various things. First, Ghost knew of Dr. Mega's plans and was aware of the creation of the entity known as Instance, along with its original purpose. Second, you, yes you, the player, are the one that canonically solves the puzzles. You can move freely because you can take control of Tryu without her being aware of it. As I said before, this was definitely inspired from one shot, since it's pretty much the connection that the player in that game has with Nico. Third, it states that you, the player, may know Starlight as Stardust. This is because that is what the material is described as in Above the Clouds. This shows that Ghost is aware of the player's action in the events of that game, and that, like you are able to control Tryu, you can take control of, well, yourself, your ROBLOX avatar in Above the Clouds. Tryu is important to Ghost, lastly. We don't know why, but she is very important in a way or another. Ghost is very likely not to be the actual name of the character, being instead just an alias. The closest pre-existing character that could be Ghost is the mad scientist from Trick or Treat games, but quite frankly, it seems really stupid. There's like nobody else though. It might simply be a new character, which I'm honestly pretty up for, and I hope that is the case. Anyway, the cutscene in the room continues after Ghost's dialogue. This is Instance. As stated before, it's the results of the experiments of Dr. Mega. It's a supercomputer built by them using the power of Starlight in order to get answers on its powers. It has full control over the systems of their entire layer. In Above the Clouds, the player explores the said layer, which is a supposedly abandoned facility. Entering, it contains various logs. But none of them worked for me. I assume this is due to the script I'll use for this being fairly old and broken. I still had screenshots though. They talk about Experiment 32 Stardust. As I said before, the crystals found in the caves of the mountain are made out of starlight. Oh yeah, I should probably finally say that the mountain in question is the Frosty Mountain, from the hit game Frosty Mountain Story. It isn't 100% confirmed, but first, the mineshafts you can see entering the lab are the exact same as the one you can explore in Frosty Mountain. And second, it refers to a mountain in a pixel-bit game. I sure do wonder what pixel-bit game has a mountain. 2 plus 2 is 4. And finally, Frosty Mountain literally has a badge for collecting a specific blue crystal. Come on, dude. Anyway, Dr. Mega started to experiment with the crystals and found out about the portals that the powder of said crystals can create. Various things from other pixel games came out of these portals and were stored as relics. While continuing to explore the facility, Instance forced the player to go back, which is completely ignored, obviously. You end up fighting him in a boss battle, similar to the one with Tryu, or well, technically still you, since you're the one that controls her again, against Jester. Instance uses attacks based on the power of Starlight. Once defeated, it apparently shuts down itself due to a system overload, creating a giant portal that absorbs Instance, you, and Dr. Mega. This is the canonical death of the character, as I mentioned earlier, I'm pretty sure. However, if you go back to the facility and do the same thing again, defeating instances a second time, it will reveal that it only pretended to shut itself down, and the player will not know more about the power, referring to Starlight obviously. Afterwards, the same ending happens, except with Dr. Mega not being present. This leads me to believe that both endings are canon, and Dr. Mega dies in the first one, not coming back once the player enters once again the facility. Returning to Hawaii, Instance synchronizes the player once again from the events of Above the Clouds, and reveals its actual motives. Since we know Starlight contains powers so strong, nobody should be able to be in possession of it. Therefore, Instance wants to have it all for itself. My guess on why it's able to resist the material and not go insane is because first, it's a program and not an actual living being, obviously. Second, it was literally built using this Starlight. Like, come on, man, do you need a better answer than that? About the ending, I believe Instance sends Tryu in a universe as far away as it possibly can, meanwhile leaving the player there, not kicking you like in the ATC ending, as it doesn't really have to. It knows you can just leave the game by yourself. Anyway, Instance is present in other Pixelbook games, most of which were already confirmed with canon universes by the fact the aforementioned relics were from these games. Its most important appearance is in Taurios though. You have a chance to obtain it from the tutorial Sabotage, apparently only on Glowing Glacier in specific, but I might be wrong on that. This one is a little confusing to me. He acts like the Tower Heroes is not its origin word, even though, if it wasn't obvious enough, Cloudy Catastrophe is the ATC lobby, and Facility Frenzy is the abandoned lab. I'm still gonna roll with ATC and Tower Heroes being the same universe for now, mostly because even if it doesn't make much sense with what Instance says in the dialogue shown earlier, you still have the fact that Instance literally appears in Facility Frenzy. You can see Stardust crystals being monitored with the cave, like, dude, what? Again, see what I mentioned with a lot of things being stupidly confusing and unindicated, with you just being supposed to figure it out? It is really annoying. I kinda getting off track. Anyway, its mention of cheating that refers to the Above the Clouds ending that I explained earlier. I'm not sure what it means by tearing loved ones apart, but it definitely refers to Tryu in a way or another. Oh yeah, while I'm at it, Sun Sanctuary's crystals are the same as the ones still in Facility Frenzy and Lab, which implies they contain Stardust as well. Considering Wizard's Wand is present on the map, that would imply that the item is powered by Starlight, but I don't know, it feels like a stretch. I don't think Wizard is just using Starlight to attack the enemies, that'd be stupid. I know I said I wouldn't include unrelated lore, but yes, Destiny's Dawn is indeed relevant. But just not that much, or at least not in a way where it plays a major role, at least as we know it. Both Dawn and Cloudy have these flying ships with the same emblem, implying they're connected to each other in some way, and that people use them to travel between these islands. However, no, Hornet is very unlikely to be in possession of Starlight / Stardust, whatever the you wanna call it. Please shut up about that. I'm referring to people that have watched any of these guys' videos and just throw with anything stated as an actual event, forgetting the definition of theory. No offense to the guy, by the way, he's cool, it's just that people acting like they know more than they do pisses me the off. I'm not saying I know more, or that this video is more correct than anyone else's. I'm saying that if you think you're quote-unquote cooking by saying a random character is lore relevant with no actual evidence, then you're not actually cooking, you're just preparing Poland's most delightful meal. I don't want to end this on a bad note though, because like, all the shit I've been talking about is one of the main reasons I still care about this stupid game. Comparing Above the Clouds to Away, how has improved so much as a developer and storyteller. I'm glad people are starting to actually care about the lore of these games, despite the fact that I already said some people really piss me off. Whenever the quote-unquote Chapter 2 for Away releases, I'll be more than willing to play it though. I very much just so wish that the puzzles were a little better and some things were a bit more indicated. I wouldn't really consider this a theory video, because I tried to mostly only make connections on things I thought made sense to the point where they were practically confirmed. As for you, listening to this whole thing, I know I have a funny accent and sound like I'm under ketamine, but I knew I had to make this using my own voice, right? It wouldn't have really worked with the usual TTS form. Thanks for watching, I guess.